Jesus. I love my Jesus. I love my Jesus. I wrote a song many years ago, and I put it on a little cassette recorder and sent it to my longtime friend, Jimmy Swagger. My phone rang. Jimmy said, Michael, I think I've just heard the greatest song ever been written. I'm going to put it on an album. I may even title the album. This was the song. Jesus, just the mention of your name. Flowers grow, the desert blooms again. Like fire in winter cold, like pure, precious gold. Jesus, just the mention of your name. Jesus, just the mention of your name. Flowers grow, the desert blooms again. It's going all over the world. Like fire in winter cold, like pure, precious gold. Jesus, just the mention of your name. If you could have seen me when I first began, I know you'd find it hard to grasp and understand. And you'd wonder how such a thing could be that could change my life and destiny. Rewrite the pages of my history. I fell in love with the King. Fell in love with a king. The rags of my past are gone. Mercy rewrited my wrongs. I fell in love. I fell in love. Oh, I fell in love with a king. I fell in love with the King. If you could have seen me when I first began, I know you'd find it hard to grasp and understand. And you'd wonder how such a thing could be that could change my life and my whole destiny. Rewrite the pages of my history. I fell in love with a king. Oh, I fell in love. Oh, I fell in love with a king. The past of mercy rewrited my wrongs. I fell in love. I fell in love. Oh, I fell in love with a king. Jesus, you are my world. Jesus, oh sweet Jesus, you are my world. changes. Oh, sweet Jesus, you are my world. Jesus, oh, sweet Jesus, you're my world. Oh, my sweet Jesus, you're my world. You're my world. Oh, sweet Jesus, you're my world. If I could go dig through all my boxes, I would tell you how many songs I've written. My nephew told me one time, I was 36 at the time, he was head of my music company, and he said, Uncle Mike, are you aware you've written 5,000 songs? I said, not really, son. I didn't know that, but that's how like a boy in love with Jesus.
To who?
Siri, I hadn't talked to you, so don't talk to me. I have to watch these folks here, don't I? Leadership is influence. Sometime you become a leader of your house if your mother dies or your dad dies, and you take the leadership. My oldest brother became the leader in our household. Daddy trusted him so incredibly. Daddy would talk over all the finances of the ministry, the 7 churches, all that with John, my brother. I was too young for that. A leader is a person of influence. Some people want the position, and the agenda is different for different people. Some people want to rule, control. Some people want to lift up the quality of a town or the quality of a church. I want to talk frankly and swiftly with you if I can. My father was a pastor of Waco, Texas, in my mother's favorite church. And at 8 years old, I gave my life to Christ on a Sunday night there and told my father I wanted to preach. And that's where my preaching days started. What are the 5 things a leader needs to know? Number 1 is difference. What makes you unlike others? Martin Luther King was very upset with Billy Graham because he wouldn't take on the racial issue. And Billy Graham writes about it, and he says, Martin, that's your lane in the highway. Mine is souls. Mine's to preach the cross. Yours is civil rights. Neither one was wrong. It is impossible for one doctor to work on your eyes one week, your ears the next week, your mouth the next week, the heart the next week, your stomach, your difference. What is wisdom? Recognition of difference. What is understanding? Knowing the value of difference. What is honor? Rewarding somebody for their difference. Everybody has responsibility for some leadership in their life. The father is the head of the home. The mother over the children, nurturing, guiding. The father buying the house, buying the cars, paying for the taxes, insurance, repairs. Identify the boundaries of your life. I can see a broken down car, but that's not my arena. When my car breaks down, I call Captain Steve, the head of the captain of our police force for many years. Walked beside me in the Wisdom Center for maybe 15, 16 years, and he started a business down the street from me here. Been in my home numerous times. One of the greatest people I've ever been around. He's truly, let me put it this way, you never tire of his presence. Very gentle, very kind. Captain of the police force for many years. That's his arena. When a man wrote me about 40 or 50 threatening letters, there's part of me that wants to take him on. That's the Irish Cherokee Murdoch. I wish all of me was under God's authority. I'm trying every day and hourly. But sometimes there's a part of me that wants to come out and say, hey, don't mess with me, dude. Don't mess with me. It's in there. One day, the young man, I say young, he's 45 or so, he sent me another notice. He was determined to come take care of me. I only met him once, so I don't know anything about him. They told me later he had medical problems, mental problems, whatever those are, but I called Captain Steve. I said, you better send a guy over to his house. And they sent police over to his house to try to see what his problem was. I don't really know. Don't handle what you cannot handle. Don't try to boss and be authority where you're not gifted. Know your boundaries. Don't jump on the neighbor's child. They're not under your authority. Identify where you have a voice, where you have a right, where you have authority. Martin Luther King had a speech I loved called I Have a Dream. I used to listen to it. I kept it on my iPad and listened to it. Tried about 400, right under 5 minutes or so. He had a vision. He hated racism. And I do too. If you had a bad experience, I was dating a black girl one time, and she told me, she was my office manager. I mean, she was black, and she wasn't light black, wasn't light skinned, brilliant, smart, and full of God. But she began to tell me her experiences in stores. Quite frankly, if I was, by the way, I do love color. There's nothing gorgeous about white. By the way, if you ever go to the Congo, it's the most beautiful. The women's color, all the women look like they stepped out of a Vogue magazine. They're the most beautiful. Lord. But it's purple. It's deep purple, like a purple black. Beautiful. Well, stay with me. Know your boundaries. You're going to react to injustice. You can't. If I saw 10 guys jumping on a boy beside the highway, I'd pull up. It's just in me. I don't have a physical fear of people. There's reasons for that. Not smart, but it's reasons. But if I saw 5 or 10 guys jumping on somebody, I would get out to help the guy they were jumping on, because it's not fair. 1-on-1, 2-on-2, but not 5-on-1. That's how you know cowards. when they need everybody around to help them fight their battle. No, wait. One-on-one. It's a David and Goliath, but that's okay. What's leadership to you? What kind of leadership have you had over you? See, the leadership in my home, my father never raised his voice. I never heard my father raise his voice ever. Pastored 7, built 7 churches, 7 children. But he said one time, we called him boss. Hey, boss. He said one time, if I have to tell you I'm boss, I'm not. I was mouthing off to my mother. I was 17 years old. And my father walks in the door behind me. I said, oh, hi, Dad. He didn't smile. He said, go to the bathroom. Wait for me. He got there and he starts pulling off his long belt. He said, that woman in there happens to be my wife. That was shocking. I thought she was my mama. This man shows up suddenly. I'm 17 years old. And he said, that woman there happens to be my wife. And I look at him staring. He says, nobody talks to my wife like that. He said, I won't let anybody talk to my wife like that. Boy, he tore me to shreds. 60 years later, and I'm still talking about it. I'll never forget the bathroom. "3814 Swanee Street, Lake Charles, Louisiana, if you want to find the house." He wouldn't let any defiance take place. That's a different kind of leadership. I never heard him talk bad to my mother. Never heard him raise his voice at me. I never saw them argue in the 18 years I was home. He knew who he was. He didn't ask anybody for reassurance. That was his turf. That's his authority. Now that's different if you're working on a job and you have a manager and you have an owner and it's different. I remember I was 18 on my way driving 3 girls from the college to a conference, and I got pulled over doing 110 miles an hour because I like speed. And I pulled off the freeway and there's a cop walking around, policeman walking around waiting for me. I'm on his turf. That's his arena, not mine. That's his. Do you know what's not yours? I'm concerned about the scenario with Apple and iPhone in China, because China's a killer nation. I have no idea how many preachers they've killed and murdered in China. China's not the United States. I have concerns about that, but that's not my turf. And there's a way to pray for things like that, and I'll share that sometime. Know who you're responsible to, who you're responsible for. Know the protocols of your environment. A wonderful preacher friend of mine, one of my closest, picked me up in Sarasota, Florida. We drive to the hotel. He goes home, and he's got thank yous and welcomes and balloons everywhere from Mike Murdoch. He's a fabulous guy. Sherman Owens, which reminds me of his wife, Mary. I haven't talked to her in months. He's with the Lord. I sit down and they have a portfolio for me and I start reading. I cannot mention my newsletters. What? What do you mean you can't mention? It's my ministry. I can do what I want to. Not really. And I begin to read. I could not give out newsletters. I could not take names and addresses from the church. I was evangelist. That wasn't my turf. I'm stunned, and I look there, and I'm in a state of shock. He's my friend. But he established rules. If he had one evangelist a month, 12 different preachers would come through his church, and getting all the finances and all the support from the church, well, that's understandable. He wouldn't have a church left. I speak on Friday night, Lagos, Nigeria. Thousands, 10,000 there. At 11 o'clock Saturday morning, pastor calls. Brother Mike, brother, you preached too long last night. My people didn't get home by the bus until 2:30 in the morning. He's very angry, very mad. Okay, part of me wants to say, let me tell you, Buster Brown, let me tell you 5 reasons why I'm leaving on the plane in 3 hours. Oh, I've got a fury. I've got a part of me that's a little rough. There's not one doubt in me I'd be in jail in 6 months if I wasn't saved. I know that. I don't like to be pushed around. I don't like to be shoved around. But I was a guest in his world. I said, brother, I'm so sorry I broke the protocol. I was not aware of the protocol. I didn't know how long can I preach. I mean, I flew here 8,000, 10,000 miles. I sat in an airplane and airports to get here. How long can I speak now that I'm here? 40 minutes. Now, there's a part of me, I'm talking here now about acknowledgement of leadership, cooperating with leadership, submission to leadership. What do I want to say? Well, Buster Brown, I'll send you a video when I get back home. I'm going back, and I don't have to be here. I could say many things. But I was under his leadership. I was under his authority. President Biden is my president. Yes, he believes in killing babies. Yes, he's a strong believer in killing babies all over America, like 47 million others. But he's my leader. Kamala Harris, our vice president, I never hear anything about her ever. Nothing. But I love her smile. She's a genius for that smile. I love it. But they're my leaders. Am I in agreement? No. No, I don't believe in murdering babies. But they are my leaders. And I need to honor that. I went several days recently and didn't pray for him. And I was sitting in my Jesus place, in my home, my Jesus room, and it began to dawn on me I hadn't called his name before. I said, wow, I need to write this down. I'm going to go a little past my 27 minutes, if you all mind. And I'm so stirred. Let me tell you, I've had newspaper reporters set under my ministry 4 years in a row, Thursday night, every Thursday night, taping everything I said, trying to find something to destroy me. So am I aware? Am I aware of hatred, people? Yes. Yes, I am. Leadership is valuable. It's not all the same quality. It's not all the same quality. Know your turf, know who's not under you, and know who you have no right to correct. And you can mentor many, but the correction is a little different. Your experience is important in leadership. Experience is important. Who trained you? Whose authority was you under? Because it will affect your belief system and persuasions for a lifetime. For a lifetime. Valerie, so glad you're here. Yvonne, Stephen, Joyce, James Williams is here. You got the little book I sent you. I'm so glad. Greenville. Jordan Baker. Ken Loring, my lifetime friend. Zeal Hills. I'm so glad you're here. Ghana is here. Brother Joseph from, is it California? Thousand Oaks. Oh, I lived out there. Yes. Billy Ray Peters is a pastor in Louisiana, Billy. Is that right? I want to remember that because you're with me a lot. I love that. Felicia, Steve Bennett, Glen Rose, Texas, Emmanuel, Ghana. Let me stay with you. Whose leadership was you trained under? If you were Elisha and you had an Elijah, that's going to influence you. What are things important in leadership and ministry? And that's whether you're in the business or not. Number one, what's your goal? What's your difference? Who's in the circle of your trust? Because the love circle is very different than the trust circle. You can love many people, but you can't trust them to care, nor honor, nor treasure instructions. Know your limitations. Know what you can do and what you cannot do. Realize that you are responsible for the mistakes of your staff. That your staff, Lester Sumrall told me more than once, that if he would have more friends if it wasn't for some of his staff. One staff member can destroy your credibility. Great friend of mine, I landed at his church for revival. He said, Brother Mike, I want to show you the 4 letters I received from your ministry. And I could not believe. It was not what I had authorized. Another lady wrote me and said, this is the letter you just sent me. Right in the middle of the letter, one of my mailroom assistants had typed in that was her friend. She says, I'm here typing this letter for Dr. Murdoch, and we're here. And she had inserted a paragraph in the middle of the letter. Who is the enemies to leadership? Anyone that doesn't have your goals. Wisdom key. Those without your goals will always disagree with your decisions. Those who don't agree with your goals will always disagree with your decisions. How do you train the people under you? Carefully, repetitiously, over and over. Is there a difference? Yes. There's people I've had close to me I can tell anything in the world to. There's others I wouldn't say hardly anything to. Stay with me here. Train them to believe what you believe. A young man was one of my pastors at the Wisdom Center for 8 years. 2 years after he left, I found out, and everybody knew it but me, that he didn't believe in seed faith. He believed in tithing and sowing to get a harvest. Totally opposite everything. But he loved my money. Oh, he loved my paychecks. but he didn't believe what I believe. The unhappy employee becomes your Judas. So you must study the joy and the countenance of everybody that represents you under your authority. I want to tell you a little story, and it was radical in my ministry. I went to Nigeria. I had 5 leaders over my ministry, and Shanae, if there any water, maybe water or tea. Thanks so much. I came back. And my to-do list, I call it now my joyful 7. 7 things I want every day, and I call it the joyful 7. Name every day of the week. It's a method of prophesying to your day. Your day's your servant, not your master. God gave you a day to schedule your joys. I brought the 5 people in together, and I said, guys, I've got a whole list of things, and y'all haven't done while I've been gone. 3 months to Nigeria preaching. I can still see the girl I had made manager of my ministry, and I'd known her. I actually dated her a couple of times. She did a lot of work for my ministry. And good, very smart lady. And her countenance. Have you ever smelled the odor of defiance? Have you ever smelled the odor of resistance? It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. So I called them in and I said, I'm going to go down this list. I said, I've been preaching my heart out to 256,000 in Lagos, 35,000 in Port Harcourt. Thanks so much. I said, guys, what happened here? What happened is your absence creates total loss of authority. An absent leader is no leader at all. An absent leader is no leader at all. And I went through the list. What I wanted to hear back, this was 19 years ago, 20 years ago. What I wanted to hear back was, Dr. Murdoch, we misunderstood something. I didn't know. I am so sorry. We will make up for it. We'll gather together. Gang, our God has been all over the world preaching to hundreds of thousands of people. We really want to be an answer to his prayer. The last thing he needs to worry about, sleeping in a motel room 10,000 miles from here, is, are we doing our job? I have a little wisdom key. If I have to repeat an instruction 2 times to you, I want half your salary back. If I have to tell you something 2 times, I want half of my salary back. I'm real serious about the gospel. I'm real serious about my words. Very serious about my words. I mean everything I say. One day my assistant, a lady, sweet person, not bright, but sweet, loved God. She said, Dr. Brock says, I know you didn't mean what you said. Maybe a volume, or we'll just keep it for next. I love this. This is beautiful, beautiful. And she said, I know you didn't mean what you said. I said, that's exactly why you and I are not clicking. You don't think I mean what I say. Fact is, I mean every cotton-picking, blessed jackass word I've ever said. I mean every word I said. Don't play with my words. I didn't fire her because she was a good person. Just slow. By the way, you must accept people at their speed. You cannot speed anybody up nor slow them down. You must identify the speed of every person on your staff. You must identify what they don't know, their history of work, etc. I called the 5 leaders in and I fired them. Was I right? No. No, I wasn't right. No, I wasn't right. My absence authorized their freedom to say yes or no, anything I wanted. Anything they wanted. The Lord gave me I spoke for 2 weeks to my staff, and I realized I couldn't do that. I had a ministry to oversee. The Lord led me to buy a $380 video recorder from Walmart, and I began to sit and make 15-minute videos. Someday I'll make them available to many of you. I spoke of everything, explained why it was important, valuable. I explained and gave them a list of the vocabulary I use, including the ministers. I don't say we're going to take up an offering. Only robbers take up offerings. You say we're going to receive the tithe offerings. Words matter. If you don't believe that, words are doors, walls, or bridges. And I began to make 286 15-minute videos. One of my leaders was called in my mail, my letters, data entry. And I said, no, these are people's letters. They've written to me. They want us to pray over their needs. I had to undo all the back teaching they had gone through. My mother said it took 3 months to get all of us 7 children back in order after we went to school from September through May. And she said, all of you are totally different. And it takes me 3 months to get you back in order. Here's some phrases important for leadership. History. What's the history of the people you're guiding and overseeing? Reactions. What's their reaction to your disappointment? What's their reaction to an instruction? One of the billionaires that greatly influenced my life was Peter J. Daniels. We spent many hours together. Peter J. Daniels, and I know you know about his background, I've shared that. He couldn't read nor write when he got saved under Billy Graham. Then he read 7,000 biographies. Peter J. Daniels told me, Brother Mike, never, never, never give an instruction twice. I said, oh, brother, I wouldn't ever get anything done if I didn't do that. He said, no, they've trained you through ignoring your first instruction. It must become a serious occasion when somebody has resisted your instruction. Bring them in, talk to them, explain, was there anything I didn't make clear? Don't ever, ever make me ask you something 2 times. There are leadership styles. The flow chart of authority in your offices makes all the difference in the world. I must never circumvent my manager. I must never call someone under my manager. I must never have personal contact. I must go and stay with the management format. I must. So much I want to say. Where are you unlearned? Where are you willingly untaught and trained as a leader? Who have you assigned to embrace the responsibilities under you? Example, I'm one of 27 on the board of Oral Roberts. Great ministry he had. Somebody raised a question, and he looks over at Dr. James Winslow in the meeting. He says, Dr. Winslow, that's not my field. That's his eyes just like that. That's not my arena. What do you say about that? Another time he says, that's the legal area. And he turned to his lawyer and said, I don't know anything about that. As a leader, you cannot master everything, but you must identify people who have mastered that area, willing to master that area. In a very critical book about Oral Roberts, a man who hated him used this phrase that Oral Roberts scoured the earth in search of the highest intellects he could find. And he did that as a finger pointing. He scoured the earth, SCOURED. He scoured the earth looking for the best minds he could find for Oral Roberts University. I was in a meeting, 27 of us, Kenneth Copeland, Bob Tilton, etc. Bob Tilton says, here's what you need to do with City of Faith. And Brother Roberts raised his eyebrow and he turned to Dr. Lynn Winslow. He said, what do you think about that? And Dr. Winslow said, we've studied it thoroughly, and these are 1, 2, 3, 4. And he spit out all the reasons why they didn't have emergency rooms in all the cities for the City of Faith. I sat there stunned. Leadership does not guarantee knowledge. But you better have someone around you who has the knowledge. The purpose of leadership is to guide an environment, joyful, productive, purposeful. There must be established protocols for your environment, even in your home. Here's 5 things we expect every day. This is what happens on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. This is what happens at 12 o'clock. Authority creates the fragrance of safety. I wouldn't want to live in a city without police cars. Authority creates the aroma of safety. The purpose of authority is protection, provision, promotion, order. The goal of authority is order. Let me stop for a moment. Brazil is here, Ghana, Nigeria, Qatar. I want to say guitar. It's Qatar. Joyce Lee, Kylo, Ken Laurie, Uriah from Nigeria, Tammy from Florida, Veronica Jones from Nigeria, Pastor Ken. Thank you for being gracious about me stretching my 27 minutes. James Williams says, I have to get this book. Zizo. Martha Garrett. Rudson from Brazil. Derek. If you're too cheerful, some people won't take you serious. If you're giggling all the time, they're not going to take you serious. My father's wisdom key, it's all right for a father to play in the floor with his son, But if he stays there too long, the son will forget who the father is. Let me say that again. My father said it's all right for a father to play in the floor with his children, but if he stays there too long, they will forget he's the authority, he's the father. Michael Matthew, thank you for that statement, that you value this teaching. I value that. I think authority is responsible for the inspiration of an environment. Inspiration, explanation of the protocols and why, and identify the subtle defiance. I was talking to the staff one day by phone, about 3 years ago or so. My manager was extremely smart, very smart person. Know-it-all, arrogant, and not an ounce of submission in her, but she was smart. A preacher's wife. And somebody sent a note to me and said, she's defying everything that you're saying as you're teaching the staff. She's motioning to them, shaking her head. So I wrote her a little text, and I says, please don't defy me. I'm the leader here, the pastor. I'm responsible for payroll. Now I have a thing. You don't like my pay? Let's give you some more responsibilities and raise it. You don't like my pay? Go work for somebody else you love. You don't believe what I believe? Get out of the environment. Don't make Judas the manager. But I did. And so I wrote her that little note. Please don't defy me when I'm giving this talking to the staff. Then when I got off there, I thought, she needs to hear my tone and hear my voice. I won't be run over. If I submit, I submit. But nobody makes me submit. I submit because I want to. You hold a knife in front of me, it'll be cutting your neck. Hold a gun in front of me, it'll be out of your hands quicker than you can imagine. I don't like that. So I called her and I said, listen, I want to remind you, I'm the pastor here. I've been here 17 years. I'm 74, 70 years old. Don't defy me to my people. If there's something you don't understand, talk to me. The purpose of conversation is order. When you talk, you understand the place of everything. And I says, I am not your 17-year-old son. I'm not your ex-husband. I'm Mike Murdoch. So let's don't do this. Don't do this to me. When I'm not there, don't do that. And she started crying and yelling back at me. I said, let me say this again. I said, I'm not your 17-year-old child that you spank and slap around. Only Jezebel puts a finger in the face of a man. And only an idiot puts the finger in the face of the one who writes your paychecks. You've got to be a jackass idiot to put your finger in the face of somebody who writes you checks. And she started tearing into me. Don't you dare bring up, wait, hold it. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But she talked to her husband that way, I remember. She talked to her husband like he's a child. Don't ever, ever, ever talk to the authority over your life like he's a child. Never, never. And I says, very quietly, I said, I can't have you on my payroll the way you're talking to me now. I don't ever allow that. So get your purse, get all your items around you, and don't ever return to the Wisdom Center ever in your lifetime. You're out, you're gone, it's over. I'll send you a paycheck. I don't regret firing her. I regret the way I did it. Lester Sumrall, who had 10 TV stations, a jet and a ship, and millions under his authority, Lester Sumrall told me, and he's a man I respected, he said, it's not the people you fire that's going to give you trouble. It's the people you refuse to fire that's going to give you trouble. Let me say this to everybody. If you exit a job, close the door gently. Be remembered for kindness, not defiance. I had a young minister that worked with me for a number of years, many years, and he really loved another famous preacher. I mean, loved him so much that I was a little scared. I was a little scared. His love for him was a little too unnatural, you know. 4 times he would go to work for this preacher, and I would work. They fired him. One first week, fired him. He comes back, and I start him over again because I loved him. Still do. Still do. He's not a learner, but he's a good person. 4 times this famous preacher hired him publicly in my pulpit. He's my new assistant. I said, okay. I want you to be where you want to be. I don't want anybody around me that doesn't love to be in my presence. Nobody. Nobody. If you don't love my presence, get out of it. Don't sit here and talk about it. Move. Move. You better know who Judas is. Leaders, you better know who your Judas is. And always be aware of the third voice. The third voice. Somebody is talking that you don't hear. Somebody's an influence. You're not, and this is one of the keys to leadership. You are not the only voice they are hearing. I want to say it again. You are not the only voice. Your leaders, your family, your team, you're not the only voice they're hearing. Let's talk about it a second before we close. I think somebody may want this on audio. If you do, let me know. Call the book number up there if you would like to have an audio copy of this. And I'll try to, I don't guarantee it, but I'll try to get it to you if I can. Being right does not guarantee your influence. David had Solomon that loved his presence. He had Absalom that raised up thousands to kill David. Same teaching, Same environment, the palace. But the heart of one was crooked. Judas sat at the table with John, Peter, James, Jesus, and became filled with devils, sitting next to Jesus. Don't ask me to explain this. I can't. How in the world did Lucifer go bad? Listening to God talk every day. How do you go bad? Sit beside a good man. But it happens every day of our life. Somebody goes bad in our presence. Why? Don't know. Sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes there's anger. Sometimes there's whatever. I don't know. I've never been able to understand the heart of the evil. Never have. Never have. One of my family members, one of our children, played the piano in a nightclub 10 minutes from my father's church. I watched my father lay on the floor and weep and cry for hours because one of the children wouldn't serve God. It tore my daddy to pieces. He said, where did I go wrong? Where did I go wrong? Goodness doesn't create goodness in everyone. The goodness of Jesus unleashed the evil in the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and Jesus. Powerful, isn't it? Joseph was the best son Jacob could ever have, and his brothers wanted to kill him. Goodness doesn't guarantee admiration. Curiosity is not the proof of admiration. Pursuers have a variety of agendas. You must remember that. Where are we now? Brazil, Ghana, Nigeria. I thought somebody would be here from England. Maybe Jordan Baker, Joyce. Jorge says, I love you, priest. Linda, Priscilla. Valerie, thank you. Carolyn, Ken Lori. 77 years of wisdom in this rare broadcast today. It's very rare. We'll re-air it. We'll re-air this every hour. I went double time today, but I'm real stirred. It's been a pretty good day for me. Pretty good day. I've had new ideas I never had before. Here's some basic things for leadership. Number one, you don't know near as much as you think you do when you're in leadership. Number two, things are hidden from you every hour of the day. 3, secrecy is not to protect you. Secrecy is the personality of evil. I'll give you some wisdom keys. Everybody's different when they're not in your presence. I had a person work for me many years, and I thought she was just quiet. I said, oh, she's just quiet. And then I looked outside one day, and she was giggling and laughing and yelling with 2 or 3 other women, and I realized she was one person with me. She was another person with different people. Everybody is different with different environments. You don't know anybody as good as you think you do. You don't know anybody as well as you think you do. One untrustworthy person can bring you more pain than you could write books about. There's a book called The Mafia. Very powerful. Mario Puzo. There's a book called Omerta, Omerto. I've read thousands of books, as you know. And in the book of murder, which means code of silence, C-O-D-E, code of silence, in that book, I don't know if we need to go there or not. Don't have time. But it's powerful. You're never as smart as you think you are. You don't know as much as you think you are. And there's some people know more than you could ever imagine. God hides his greatest gifts in uncomfortable people. Be ready for that. Be open for that. I'll let you go. I hope to. This is a book I want you to have. There's 2 books. They're free. Book 293, 1001 Wisdom Keys of Mike Murdoch. It's book 293. Book 91, The Leadership Secrets of Jesus. As long as they last in paperback, I'll send them to you. I'll pay the shipping and handling. Let me pray for your harvest. I almost forget. I always almost forget about the support. I shouldn't. It runs everything, but I want to pray. Father, I ask you for 12 uncommon seeds in the next 12 hours. Your sheep know your voice, and another will not follow. I ask you for 12 uncommon seeds. It may be $1,000, may be 200, but I ask you for uncommon financial favor from this seed. I ask you for financial protection, financial discerning, and financial discipline. Let the seed that's planted in the next 12 hours be a seed for favor in Jesus' name. Thank you for sowing. Michael Matthew, UK, yay. Thank y'all for walking this path with me. Tomorrow is Friday, Favor Friday, 12 o'clock noon. I hope to be here. I hope you'll call and support our ministry. Thanks to you, I'm on the radio every week in Israel because of you. Can't thank you enough. Can't thank you enough. There's a $500 seed looking at me, and you know who you are. And you know what happened when I sowed the $500 seed. My whole ministry changed. I'll tell you about it sometime. Thank y'all for being in my world. Good night.